Welcome in. It is day 106, and you're speaking with the Meeples Champion. And today, on October 24th, we're going to be speaking about one of my favorite games. This is a two-player game, and I wasn't sure at first if I should use this in the Halloween month or not, but when I really looked into it, I felt that this game really does, even if you ignore the expansion, it fits my definition of what I'm looking for a fun, spooky, or dark type game. That game is Battlelore Second Edition. Now, in the base game, you're using humans versus essentially demons. You could call them various things. It could be considered like an orc or something like that, but it's really, to me, it's demons. And if you have the expansion, which I got everything, this is a finished game. They're not putting out more for it. When I got it, I bought everything at once, and that included the third faction, which was the Undead, which very much fits the Halloween month. The concept of the game is, for me, very unique. It's a two-player game, and what you're going for in this game is that all of your troops are available to you. You're going to pull out your map, and you're going to figure out your scenarios of how you're setting up your sides, and how the points work. So in this game, you don't have to wipe out your opponent. You can win that way, but usually it's got some kind of a setup that's going to allow points, and it will say, oh, well, if you end a round and you have a hill, then you're going to get a point for it, or if you have a hill, you have to hold it with this type of a creature, or if you've wiped out certain creatures, or there's a bunch of different ways to score points, as well as there's hills to be on, there's bridges to cross, there's water to block you. There's a lot of aspects that can really affect this field. So everything's there. You put out your board, and then you're allocated so many points. And you have to go through and pick from all your troops who you want. You're going to put down a token face down on every space on your side of the board. So not only are you going to end up having to pick how many total troops you get, obviously the weaker the troops, the cheaper they are, meaning you could have lots of troops, or you could invest in heavy troops, have a lot stronger troop, but there's fewer. But your opponent and you have no idea what troops have been chosen and where you've put them. You place out all these things, and when it's time to reveal, you flip them, and for everything that was an empty spot, it's just been flipped and revealed that it's just an empty spot. You pull those off the board, and then you start putting your people out. And then you start using your card management along with your dice rolling and your target of what you're using. You have multiple types of cards. You have your actual cards for your actions, as well as your cards for your movement. Now, this doesn't necessarily say you can just move. What it does is it says, all right, well, you have section A, B, and C of the board. This card says you're allowed to move one person in section A and two people in section B. And then you have to pick your troops that you're going to move, and then you do the moves, and then you do fighting if there's any fighting. It's a really fun game. I, as a person who's loved board games for a long time, started expanding on my own interest in games based on, if anybody out there watches it, the Dice Tower. The Dice Tower, to me, is the elite of the elite, and I get so into the top 10s, and I really love their top 100s. And what I found was, while I didn't know a lot of the games on his list, Roy Canaday had a lot of games that whenever I had heard one that he had on the list that I had played, I really liked it. So after a few years of watching Top 100s, I said, maybe I need to start playing a few of these games. And I took a chance and I started buying some games that I thought looked like I might be interested in that if it was on his list. Well, Battlelore had been there a long time, and I finally gave in and I picked up the game and I loved it. And then I was like, I know this is not one that's in print anymore as far as all these expansions go, but I took a chance and I went on to BoardGameGeek.com, started messaging with people who had it up as they owned it and they were looking for trade, and I ended up not trading but buying off of every person and got every expansion you could get. Literally, I maxed out this. I have everything. I'll take some pictures for you guys because I actually had to get special boxes to hold everything so that it's all organized and easy to play when I decide to play this game. But I have it all, and I'm super happy I do. Well, With that being said, why don't we jump into our 7 categories and actually judge this game based on those and see where it lines up for my norm, as well as how you guys feel it is as far as a Halloween or October month type game. The art of this game is fabulous. I love the box. Now, just like the other day where I was talking about the green box of Betrayal at the House on the Hill, the brown of a box doesn't necessarily sell you, but this one does. It's just such a cool image on the front. I feel like the brown really kind of just gives it that earthy tone, and for me, this was one of the reasons. Whenever I saw it on his list, it was the box cover when it would pop up that grabbed me the most. Then you jump into the actual game, and your board, yeah, it's basic. But when you add on your pieces to give it rivers, to give it hills, to give it trees, when you pull out your cards, when you're looking at these minis, loads of minis, it's so cool. They do a great job of setting a theme and a feel, and I just so into it. Huge thumbs up. The components are a fantastic mixture in this game. You have cards. As I mentioned before, you have your cards that you're using to declare who it is that you're moving based on portions of your board. You have the cards that you're collecting from, your faction to go out there and actually be able to use these and pay and be able to have certain special attacks. You have your minis, of course. You have the board itself. You have loads and loads and loads of little cardboard pieces that are used to represent all sorts of things, whether it's hits, bonus points, whatever it may be. There is a lot in here, but they really, in every aspect of the word, went all out and made sure that this game had top quality components, and they work fantastic. It's a big thumbs up. The price on this game it's not cheap. Now, again, I'm, for the first time ever, really kind of including my additional games for this. I don't usually bring expansions in during these talks because I like to talk base game. But because of how I collected this and the way that the game is set up these days, I made the choice to do everything kind of. But when it comes to price, I'm going to determine this based on 2 things. First off is the expansions. They are expensive. You're not going to find them in a store. If you do, you got lucky. They're never going to be re-released. So unless you're committed like I was, willing to go and drop like $500 over a few months to slowly pick up these expansions, don't get your hopes up there. But the base game, you can still find this in stores. And this game goes for about $60. Now, for the base game, what you're getting in that box, it is totally worth it for $60. And you don't need the expansions necessarily. I made the decision when I decided to finally get the game. I had watched multiple playthroughs and said, I'm going to make the effort to try to get everything, because I know that the likeliness is the longer I wait, the less and less there's going to be availability of that. Because people are either going to finally get it to a home like myself who will never sell this, or things were just going to slowly be forgotten about. And people were never going to, the people who have it and are never going to sell it are just going to forget they have it, and it's going to slowly just disappear. So I made the decision to get it all. I don't recommend that for you guys. And for the base game, I think the price is totally worth it. Thumbs up. This game is not difficult. It takes about an hour. You can have shorter games, you can have longer games. It all depends on your scenario and how long it takes you with analysis paralysis to actually play the game and make out your decisions. But in general, it's a 2-player game, and you have the ability to set up your own people. You don't have to get too complicated. I don't feel that the cards are confusing. I don't feel that the minis are confusing. It's all just up to, it's an advanced version of a chess match. In chess, everything's in front of you, and you see their pieces, you see your pieces, and that's it. It's the same concept. It's just you don't know what pieces are going to start this game. The board can change, not during, but pre. It comes out to a unique board, and you have lots of cards that affect the board. But at the end of the day, it's still, to me, a face-up, pretty straightforward game, and it's not that hard to pick up. It's a fun. The replayability is, this game is one that you can pull out year-round. I don't feel that this is one I pull out more often in October because it's up to me finding one person who wants to commit to playing the game with me. And so that's not a party game. So maybe during Halloween, I might get my wife to play or my sister to play or a friend to play if I so happen to have one person with me. But the month of October is not specifically something I pull this out in. There's other games I'd rather pull out this month because it makes more sense to the situations. I think this is a year round. I just feel the theme really hits for this month. And for the replayability, in my opinion, being 2-player, if you can find 1 or 2 people that like to play this game, this is easily one you can play at least once a month. So, thumbs up. Your keys to victory. Now, as I said, you can win this game by outright just wiping out your opponent. Now, I've never done it, nor have I ever seen it done. However, the other part of it is you win this game based on going until somebody hits a certain level of points. And once you see, I believe it's 16 points. So once somebody hits 16 points, you finish out the round and then you declare your winner. And the points are allocated based on, well, there's your basic points. You know, usually there's a couple spots for the map that's laid out. That'll be the, hey, whoever holds this is going to get a point. But then there's also going to be the random cards that are going to set up a specialized point. So it's like, all right, well, this map had this spot and this spot for points, but we also have this special rule that says you're going to get a point if you have your knights directly next to a hill at the end of your turn. So there's ways to get points elsewhere. You have to kind of, every time that you play this game, be able to quickly overlook the land, see what the options are, figure out your opponent's army, and figure out how to attack it. But there's always multiple keys to victory. So big thumbs up there. Finally, unique. Now, I've been told that the system they use here is based on the old Command, I believe it's Command and Conquer, or Command and Color. I forget the exact name, but it's an older game. Rune Wars, I believe, also uses the similar type system. And possibly Blitzkrieg, if I remember correctly, but I haven't played that one. I think that one I was referenced uses possibly the same system here. Point being, though, is the system exists elsewhere. However, despite that, I just feel like this game is very unique. I looked at some of those other ones, and I had no interest in getting them because the theme just didn't match up well. I really wanted something where, you know, this almost feels kind of like I have my own Warcraft game in a way, where it's like you have your humans versus your undead versus demons or orcs, you know, whatever you want to call it. To me, you know, it could be either way. It's more demonic, but I could see people saying, oh yeah, those are a bunch of things that the orcs would use in like World of Warcraft or in regular Warcraft. And I was excited to see a game that had that. And the system works great, and I'm sure it works great in the other games as well, but those themes just didn't grab me. The theme does make a difference, and for that reason, I'm going to give it the thumbs up on unique. Overall, what do I think about this game? I think this game is one of the best 2-player games I've ever played. I love this game. It is one that I am so happy is in my collection. I wish I had it up here, but because of just how much I got for it and how huge these extra containers are that I keep off to the side here, everything's put in its own board game bag I have. So whenever I'm going off to PAX East or a convention, or when I'm going to a friend's or a family member's house and we're bringing a lot of games, it's the bag I usually pack. But when not using it for that reason, it is the storage bag for everything for this. All of this takes up most of the bag on its own. So obviously, if I'm bringing this to somebody's house, the bag really is already being used for a purpose. But I wish it could be up front and center. I just can't do it because of how much I have. Point being is, I highly recommend for everybody to try this. I don't think this is a have to buy because it's not going to hit for everybody. The theme won't always hit. You may not be into the wargaming. I'm not a wargamer. This just is perfect for me, so I got it because I wanted something in the collection. And I would say if you have a friend who has it, or if you find a way to play it, play it. Give it a couple tries. And if you like it and you want to get the base, get the base. Don't freak out about the expansions, but if you really like it, I would recommend going on boardgamegeek.com. You can sign up for your profile there, and then you can start looking for who owns the game and wants to sell or trade. That's what I did. I got all the expansions that way. It worked out really well. I'm sure you could do the same. Well, that's just my opinion. It's up to you guys to get out there, see if you can play this game or look into it a bit and figure out what you think. It has been day 106. We've been talking about Battlelore Second Edition, and you've been speaking to the Meeples Champion. Like, share, subscribe, and check down below in the description where I'll be adding in an Amazon link in case you want to add this game into your collection. Till next time, I'll talk to you tomorrow.